Okay. It's not ideal, but it's fine, honestly. Alright. I enter the palace gardens with Seren by my side. Ooh. Wait, I want to see if I need anything today. What day is it? What week is it, rather? 35. Nope, this is one of those rare ones where I don't need anything. As far as I'm aware, in regards to the route, maybe something is needed. Even from a distance away, we can already hear waves of loud laughter and excited shrieks from the children. I can't help but smile at what difference just 1 week can make. Seren too appears to be delighted, if the soft smile on his face is any indication. I am very glad they're feeling better now. It was all thanks to you that we managed to slowly gain their trust. It was nothing, I'm sure you would have been able to achieve the same results without me. I give him a sideways glance and smirk, the teasing tone creeping into my voice. I have heard that you've become quite popular. I do believe I overheard a few girls declaring that they'd like to take your hand in marriage once they grow older. Quite the charmer, aren't you? A shade of pink slowly appears on his cheeks. He coughs and shifts his gaze away from me. You must have been mistaken. I cannot recall ever hearing anything of that sort. If you insist. Seren's blush deepens and he doesn't respond, but I distinctly notice the increase in the pace of his footsteps. Suppressing my amused chuckle, I do my best to keep up with him. Turning around the corner, we spot many children running around, chasing after each other with glee. Some are sprawled on the ground, but even their exhaustion cannot take away the happy grins on their faces. Quill, being the tallest one, easily stands out among them all. He seems to be fussing over a little girl, looking her up and down as though to check for any injuries before letting out a sigh of relief at finding none. Seren and I approach, and I raise my voice, speaking up in a bright tone. Hello, how is everyone today? A dozen small heads turn in my direction, and ear-splitting grins spread across many of the faces. One of the girls, Lena, who has taken a particular fondness towards us, bounces up and down while clapping her hands. Seren, Valkii, you're here! It's Prince, Seren, and Lady Rosencruz. Remember what I said? Lena pouts, looking unmoved by Quill's reprimanding. Seren and Valkii don't mind, right? She beams while rushing up to me and slipping a tiny hand into mine. I let out a chuckle, reaching out to stroke her hair. Next to me, Seren gives a gentle smile and a nod of his head. Of course we don't mind. See? She playfully sticks her tongue out at Quill, who glances at us in exasperation before sighing again. Fine, just remember to behave. I always do, right, Valkii? Yes, yes, Lena is a very well-behaved young lady. I wink at her, causing the little girl to burst into a round of giggles as she leans in closer to me. Valkii, are you here to play games with us? Please, please say yes. We love playing with you. Yeah, we always have so much fun with you, Valkii. I smiled at the children with fondness, but I haven't forgotten the purpose of Seren's and my visit. I take a step back with a shake of my head. Actually, Seren and I are here today with some good news for everyone. Oh, news! What is it? Tell us, tell us! If you recall, we promised that we would help you return home safely. Raphael has been working day and night to locate your families. I am happy to let you know that he has succeeded for the most part, and many of you will be able to go back home soon. A collective gasp runs through the group. A moment later, they erupt into loud cheers and begin hopping around in joy. For the very first time, even Quill gives us a bright smile, but it does little to disguise the melancholy in his eyes. I had almost forgotten until now what Seren had mentioned in passing. Quill had reported having no family to return to, as his parents and relatives have already passed away. Unlike most of the celebrating children, he'll likely be sent to an orphanage along with those who suffer the same fate as him. I watch him silently for a moment, noting the way he keeps smiling in spite of the sadness. He barely comes up to my chest, and it once again reminds me of the fact that he's still just a child, despite his tendency to act far more mature than his peers. A wave of sorrow rushes over me, and I find myself walking towards him and reaching out to place my hand gently on his head. He freezes, his eyes widening at me. For a moment, the caution and sadness lingering about him that makes him seem much older than he really is melts away, and he looks just like any other child among the group. Don't worry, we'll find a good home for you too. Quill blinks slowly, his face still stunned. The shock eventually gives way to a conflicted expression that I can't quite name, and he smiles again at us. Thank you, Lady Rosencruz, Your Highness. There is no need to thank me, as my duty is to provide for the people. It was my oversight in the first place that led to such suffering you went through. Seren responds with solemnness, and it is then that I finally notice the guilt deep set in his eyes. Will's smile grows just slightly wider, and he nods at us before walking away to rejoin the children. Can't help but stare at Seren's serious expression as the realization dawns on me. Does he feel responsible for the children being taken by the slave traders? Surely he realizes that he cannot be expected to do everything and watch over every person in the kingdom. For the first time, I noticed the faint dark circles beneath his eyes and the tiredness lining his face. Has he been getting enough rest this week while trying to sort out this situation? Feeling my gaze on him, Seren turns to me and tilts his head in confusion. Valkii, is something the matter? I open my mouth to ask him to confirm my doubts, but then I pause. In the end, I only give a small shake of my head. No, not at all. You're doing wonderfully. Seren gives me a quizzical look, clearly not comprehending the meaning underlying my sentence. If that is the case, then I must excuse myself. I need to speak with Raphael and make more preparations to send these children back home. Of course, please do not hesitate to let me know if you need anything. With a polite bow and his trademark smile, Seren walks away. I stare after his departing frame, feeling strangely troubled. Alright. We don't have any requests as of right now. How much money do we have? 504. I can make a lot of things. I still can't make this. Who should I make this? Like, go to make this. Oh wait, no, Aurelius can make this. I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. I just like being very prepared, I think. Like, if we can make all of this, even Aurelius can make this now. If we can make all of this, then I would feel comfortable taking requests currently. Like, the mission requests. I think we can make everything. Yeah, that's great. It's actually great. Alright, I think... Let me have a look at my stats. Ah, wait, you. You still need light training for week 38, so... Sadly, you need more light training. So we will not be taking them just yet. Not yet. Soon, TM. Alright, time to save Scar. 2, already bad. Already just terrible. Yeah. Whenever I see a 2, my heart just drops into my stomach, man. 6. 2. Alright, well, you know how it goes. Pause time. Alright, this is just as good as it's gonna get, I guess. Knock knock. The familiar sound of someone rapping on the door reaches my ears, and with a smile, I look up from my book as Raphael enters the room. Oh no, it's gonna be another fucking request, isn't it? Lady Rosencruz, my apologies for disturbing your research. Don't worry, you're bringing me more requests, I assume? Indeed, you've received appeals from both Lady Ceridwen and Harris. Oh, let's hear them. First, Lady Ceridwen requests another batch of hair conditioner from you. Another one? I think back to the last bottle I synthesized. She seemed quite pleased with it, so I can't say I expected her to request more so soon. The last bottle should have lasted months. Would you like to decline then? I can make it. No, it's fine. Let Lady Ceridwen know I'll get it done. Certainly, Lady Rosencruz. The item is due in 4 weeks. Understood. What about Harris? I must say it's unusual for him to send a request through you when he could simply come to me himself. A fond smile tugs at the corners of Raphael's mouth, one that disappears almost as soon as I notice it. I'm afraid he's being held up by his duties to Prince Aurelius today. Thus, Harris asked me to bring you his request for a batch of enchanted iron bars. Iron bars? Whatever could he need them for? I'm not sure myself. However, it seemed important. Yeah, I think I've already got them. Alright, I will get it done. Although the request was not made by him, Raphael lets out a relieved chuckle and bows. Thank you, Lady Rosencruz. Please deliver them in 5 weeks. Alright. I'll be sure to let Harris know. Thank you kindly, Raphael. That should be everything. Please excuse me. I give Raphael a nod and he departs, closing the door to the study behind him. Once he is gone, I return to reading. A stack of books in my arms, I head down the path that would lead me to my study. That's when I notice a familiar voice. figures of Prince Seren and Quill are up ahead, appearing to be engaged in conversation. I let my footsteps slow to a halt some distance away, not wanting to be a disturbance, but the words continue drifting to my ears in the quiet corridor. It is quite rare to find you wandering the hallways alone, Quill. I fail to hear a response, but I can see Quill shuffling his feet and ducking his head. Perhaps used to Quill's quietness by now, Seren does not seem discouraged by the lack of reply and presses on for after a moment of waiting. Wait, I need to bring my thing back up. Are you about to depart from the palace? Quill nods, still keeping his gaze downwards, while mumbling a quiet no. I can just vaguely see Seren's eyebrows pulled together, and the concern in his voice is blatant when he speaks again. May I inquire as to where you are headed? Perhaps I could accompany you, as I was intending to complete some tasks in town today. Finally, Quill speaks up. Due to the difference in their heights, he has to tilt his head up quite far to look at Seren, who decides to make it easier for the child by crouching slightly with a smile. I was hoping to look for a job. Ah, would you prefer to find work and lodging in town instead of staying at an orphanage? The boy nods. There's a beat of silence before he continues hesitantly. Would that be a problem? No, of course not. You are old enough, so I see no problem with your plans to find work. In fact, I respect your decision. Do not hesitate to come to me if you need any assistance. Quill's shoulders slump in what appears to be relief, and he gives another terse nod at Seren, who purses his lips with a thoughtful expression. However, here is a proposal. Would you perhaps be interested in taking up a position in the palace? The palace? Quill's head shoots upwards, the surprise evident in his sharp movement. Seren nods in affirmation with a smile. What would the position be? I do believe there would be a few available positions as a servant in the palace. I would have to ask Raphael to assign you to one. I'm afraid I am not quite as informed about the status of such affairs. I will do so today if you are interested in this offer. Quill lowers his head without a word for a moment, perhaps considering. Then he questions in a cautious tone once more. Would I be qualified? I am certain we will find a position suitable for you. Quill bites his lip, not looking reassured by Seren's gentle smile. The prince seems to notice Quill's lingering doubts, and a frown graces his forehead. Please do not feel obliged to accept my offer if it does not sit right with you. No, that's not it. Thank you, Your Highness. Seren lets out a small hum, clearly unconvinced. Then again, it doesn't exactly take a light magic user to detect that something's bothering Quill. Still, sensing the kid's reluctance, Seren lets the issue go, but I can just barely catch a hint of a small sigh. You may take your time to consider it if you are unsure about what course of action to take. The boy takes in a deep breath before letting out an audible exhale. Then he gives a courteous smile and speaks in a louder tone than before. No, there's no need. I accept the offer. Thank you for the opportunity, Your Highness. Wonderful. Then I shall make arrangements. The two converse for another brief minute before Quill excuses himself, returning to the gardens to join the rest of the children. Once the boy leaves the vicinity, I finally step forward and make my way towards Seren. The prince stares at the corner where Quill disappeared with a slightly troubled expression. Upon hearing my footsteps, Seren turns to me with a smile. Your Highness? Good day, Valkii. He takes one look at the books in my arms, and a hint of apology creeps into his eyes. Pardon me, were we in the way? No, don't worry, I should be the one to apologize for unintentionally overhearing the conversation. Oh no, it was not a private conversation by any means. If it was, I would be at fault for speaking in the middle of a hallway in any case. That's true. You need some more practice with discretion, Your Highness. I flash him a teasing smile, eliciting a small chuckle from him. You may be right. Well, perhaps you make up for your shortcomings with kindness. It was very thoughtful of you to offer Quill a job at the palace, Your Highness. It was the least I can do. Will you be extending the same offer to the other children who have no families to return to? A small sigh escapes him, his brows furrowing again. I have already found a trustworthy orphanage to house them. However, I still find myself bothered by what their futures will hold. I would like to offer them all some work, but I'm unsure if we have enough positions available. Not to mention, they may not be old enough or willing to work here in the first place. Perhaps I need a different solution. Seren's frown deepens, his gaze slipping downwards to the ground. I'm reminded by the exhaustion I noticed on him these couple of weeks, and when his voice trails off, I can't help but soften mine in return. You've already done enough for the children, Your Highness. I'm sure they appreciate everything you've done. Not everything is your responsibility to take care of. Seren shakes his head, his frown not easing the slightest. I am surprised at his display of stubbornness now out of all times. No, Valkii. It is, after all, my oversight that led to this plight of theirs. Until this event, I had not realized how much of a problem bandits and beasts remain, especially in the rural areas. During my father's reign, it was never this bad. My people are not receiving enough protection, and after this rude awakening, I do not want to fail them again. I frown. How long has he been burdening himself with these responsibilities? Perhaps it is a blessing for Eskia to have such a kind, empathetic ruler, but at this moment all I can feel is concern for this one prince who is clearly strained to a point. Your Highness. I hesitate. Certainly I can't fault him for his sense of duty to his subjects, yet. Please accompany me into town next week. My sudden request and change of topic pull him out of whatever mood that had overcome him just now. He looks at me, surprise clearly displayed on his face. Valkii? I heard that a merchant caravan will arrive in Fostrax in the upcoming days. If you're intending to look for work for the children, perhaps we can find something of interest by talking to the merchants. It is a lie, and I silently apologize to the prince. My instincts tell me that Seren needs rest, an afternoon away from the palace to get rid of his fatigue and clear his mind. I know that I am overstepping my bounds, yet this person is always thinking of others before himself, so I worry for him. I almost expect Seren to decline, as polite as he always carries himself. It was an unskilled lie, and as a light magic user, he can probably see it. He frowns for what feels like an eternity, but at last he smiles weakly and gives a nod. All right. Really? He probably saw through my intentions, which makes it even more unbelievable to me that he agreed. Yes. Also, I apologize for babbling away just now. I must admit that the situation of the orphans affected me too much, as they reminded me of the passing of my own parents. Let's go into town next week, as you suggested. Heaving a relieved sigh, I nod. Thank you, Your Highness. No. Reaching out, Seren gently lifts my hand to his lips, placing a soft kiss onto the knuckles. Thank you for giving me your time, milady. Milady? I blink, surprised at the sudden contact. It's the most intimate touch Seren has given me since we have met, and through it alone I can feel his sincere gratitude. Alas, the tension around us finally lifts. After helping me bringing the books back to my study, Seren excuses himself for the day. What a sweetie. He is a little sweetie. Alright, what do we need? Oops. What do we need? Right, we need more conditioner for her. And I knew we already had the bar. Alright, the conditioner is fine to make. It's expensive, but I can do it. Okay, and you need one more lesson, and then we can go out for some sweet missions. That's the word I'm looking for. All right. What should I do? I don't know. Like, I already feel like I have so much. Maybe I shouldn't save scum anymore because I don't need to. I don't know. Let's do beauty again. Why are you getting fire? I don't remember. I don't remember why I'm making him do fire. Oh well. Alright, we're not gonna save scum. 4, 3, 5. Okay, that's okay. New missions are available. Cool. That's an interesting look you've chosen for yourself today, Your Highness. One second, let me get the guide back up so I can see what the fuck we're doing. Alright. Okay, we need 75 charisma, which we already have, so that's fine. Seren looks abashed, touching his cloak with a hint of self-consciousness. An awkward laugh escapes his lips. We draw to the center of town, finding more chattering groups of people, their arms full of baskets holding food and trinkets. Well, sounding just a tad flustered, he coughs before pushing through his hesitance. It was the best I could find. I don't doubt that. I assume there aren't many articles in a crown prince's wardrobe that would be fitting for this adventure. A faint color flushes his cheeks when he catches the teasing tone in my voice. Surprisingly, there are not. I assume you're attempting to be inconspicuous? Yes. As we are going to speak to the merchants about available work, Seren, you don't have to try so hard to cover for my terrible lie at that time. I was also hoping to learn whether they have run into any trouble on the road. Are there not regular reports from the merchants? Yes, but they tend to withhold information. They want to avoid bringing too much trouble to the crown, or at least they did when making reports to my father. I believed I could glean more about their situation by approaching them differently about it. Hence this endeavor, I suppose. He gestures at himself with an embarrassed half-smile, and I fail to withhold a laugh. I tried to make improvements based on your recommendation from that time in the tavern, but I can see I must have failed. Well, your highness, for what you lack in dressing sense and deception skills, you make up for in benevolence and diligence as a ruler. Actually, I should say your usual attire looks more handsome on you in any case. If I weren't paying attention to him closely, I would have missed the blush that rose to his cheeks as he ducks his head quickly. He clears his throat, changing the subject with little subtlety. What about you, Valkii? Do you have any other business to tend to? I, unfortunately, do not have any noble reasons as you do. I'm simply taking a break for once. It is a well-deserved break. You have been working extremely hard for many months. Same to you. Perhaps I'm finally setting out to fulfill one of the aims I had when joining the High Council. Seren tilts his head at me, his lips parting slightly with interest. Other goals? Traveling, trying foreign delicacies, having time to relax and enjoy myself, among many other things. I punctuate my sentence with a playful wink, causing him to laugh. Delightful aims indeed. Strangely, there is a hint of melancholy in Seren's eyes, one he has never shown to me before. Perhaps it's the sound of the commonplace chattering that makes us feel less like a crown prince and his loyal subject. Or perhaps it's his uncharacteristic guise. Seren looks more approachable. I find myself reaching out to hook my arm around his. Come with me. Seren stares back at me with wide eyes. For a moment, I thought he'd politely pull away, but then something shifts in his eyes and he cracks into a soft smile. Lead the way, Valkii. I end up in the stalls with Seren in tow. Drawn by the aroma, our first stop has delicious-looking yet unfamiliar food on display. I peer in curiosity at the stick of meatballs that are dressed in a strange sauce. Noticing my interest, the merchant begins to introduce the foreign delicacy to me in detail, attempting to sway me into making a purchase. After listening to the enthusiastic description, I purse my lips, my eyes roving over each dish as I try to make up my mind. I turn to the prince next to me. What about you? Is there anything you'd like? I'm not sure. In any case, why don't we try the fried fish? It certainly smells great, and the merchant recommended it. Without giving Seren time to refuse, I beam at the merchant and pull out my pouch of coins. We'll have 2 of these, please. Yes, thank you. Just one moment. A minute later, there are 2 small, steaming plates of fish in my hands. As we step away from the food stall, I pass one to Seren, who stares down at it with a slightly baffled look as if he can't believe the quick turn of events. Try it! I dig in, inhaling the delicious aroma and reveling in the new taste. Peeking at the prince from the corner of my eyes, I notice him bringing the fork to his mouth with hesitance, chewing slowly. Delicious? There's a pause before he finally lifts his head to meet my eyes, his lips curving upwards into a smile. Yes, it is. He begins taking more bites, his pace slowing increasingly. His comfort seems to grow along with the satisfaction of his hunger, and his smile continues to become brighter with every moment. Afterwards, we continue our quest of discovering more exotic street food, visiting each stall one by one. During our delightful expedition, we also managed to slip in quite a few subtle questions for the warm, welcoming merchants about their travels. Good day, good sir. How is business? Fantastic as always. I see you've already sampled half of the market. He gestures at the half a dozen bags and napkins we are already holding, filled to the brim with food. I laugh. We embarked on a journey of taste. These are not local Eskian apples, are they? Oh no, these are from the east of Marin. That's the only place they grow so large and red. But the locals normally do not turn them into candy, they bake them. Fascinating. I assume you travel much? Indeed, it is a long journey, but worth it for the joy it brings to my customers. You have many tales to tell, no doubt. How are the roads? The merchant sighs and shakes his head. I nearly missed the whole market, that's how bad they are. But of course, one shouldn't complain. Why not? The merchant lowers his voice and leans over. The late king has been very kind to make sure our paths to Eskia are as smooth and safe as possible. Built a network of trade roads from the capital, a worthy endeavour and the very lifeblood of this kingdom if you ask me. I glance at Seren next to me, noting the small smile that touches his lips at the mention of his father's good deeds. But some of them are not quite as carefully planned as others. The one I use, well, whenever spring arrives, it is practically washed away by floods. That sounds quite inconvenient and potentially problematic. Seren leans forward, his brows furrowed in concentration. By now, the smile on his face has faded into an expression of seriousness again. I hold back a small sigh of inexplicable disappointment at the sight, returning my attention to the merchant. Have you not reported this to the crown? The merchant let out a hearty chuckle, waving Seren's concerns away with a flick of his wrist. Nah, I didn't want to bother since it's not a big issue after all. Can usually avoid it if we're careful about the weather. I see. From the knot in Seren's eyebrows, it's clear he far from agrees with the merchant's flippant attitude about the spring floods. He falls silent, deep in thought, and I take over the conversation with the merchant in his stead. We eventually leave the stall with 2 portions of candied apples, but judging by the slowness with which he finishes the food, it cannot be more obvious that his thoughts are elsewhere. Do you want to go back? My question snaps him out of his reverie. Seren turns to me with a troubled smile. My apologies, Valkii. I didn't mean to get distracted. Don't mind it. We've been able to enjoy ourselves for much longer than I expected to. I take a look at Seren. The fatigue of the past weeks seems washed away. His eyes are brighter and relaxed. I have accomplished what I set out to do. Let's go back. Duty calls and all that. Seren hesitates for a moment, contemplating, but at last he nods. All right, thank you very much for accompanying me today. The pleasure was mine. I stop at a few stalls, picking up more delicacies to share with the children. Then, side by side, Seren and I head in the direction of the great sprawling palace of Fostrux. Aww, they had a good little date. And it's going up. Our affection is going up. Alright. Return. Alright, so I don't think we need to do any more of this. So I think we can go and do a mission. What one? I don't know. Let's go to the cursed room. I overheard the servants saying something strange the other day. The empty east wing of the palace is, in fact, haunted. I asked Sada about it, for she seems to know everything that goes on around here, but she was rather tight-lipped about the situation. After deciding to investigate on my own, I encountered Prince Seren on his way out of the library. Ooh. I explained the situation to him and he resolved to accompany me. I could see why the servants would think the empty wing haunted. Our footsteps echoed down the corridors and most of the curtains were shut. Suddenly, I heard a faint scratching noise coming from behind a closed door. The corridor chose this moment to push against me a cold gust of air. I would like to say that I was unmoved, but that I stood steadfast against my imagined ghost in the eerily flickering candlelight. Alas, I cannot do so without borrowing a liar's tongue. I jumped ever so slightly, but Prince Seren, being ever so perceptive as was his nature, noticed still. He gave me a rueful smile, then gestured to the door, murmuring something akin to, "Shall we?" before slowly pushing it open. Darkness spilt from the room, nearly swallowing the light from the wall sconces. I had scarcely taken another step forward when a kitten. Its rust-orange coat glowed under the meagre candlelight, and for a moment we found ourselves at a standstill. I had been feeling rather foolish and was eager to redeem myself, both in Prince Seren's eyes and my own. Cautiously, I knelt, and to my luck, the kitten trotted over to greet me, because I'm so beautiful. You see, the cat liked me because I was beautiful. Up close, I noticed that its eyes were luminous green. So majestic. Aww. The prince and I played with the cat for a while until it was properly late. I must say I cannot think of company more enjoyable than that of a happy cat. Prince Seren seemed to agree, for he ordered the room changed to house the animal the very next day. The servants' fears were assuaged, and we had made a very fluffy new friend. Hell yeah. Oh, we named the kitten! I'm gonna name it Pixie, the name of the cat that is right next to me, sleeping on the bed. She is extremely cute. The kitten shall be named Pixie. A new mission has been unlocked. I am on my way back to my bedroom after another tiring day of research in the study when... Which is when I have to cast. No, that's our mistake the last time. I must be the one to... Are you certain, Aurelius? Lady Rosencreutz told us. From inside the classroom comes the dim glow of candles and the voices of Seren and Aurelius muttering heatedly. Curious, I pause by the door and poke my head in. What did I tell you? The 2 princes are bent over a table, tinkling with what looks like one of the more advanced alchemical apparatus. I went to look at the time. Of the more advanced alchemical apparatus. They look up at my approach, Seren smiling, Aurelius stony-faced as ever. Good evening, Lady Rosencreutz. Excuse me, but call me Valkii. We didn't mean to make a disturbance. No, you didn't. No one ever comes to this part of the palace at this hour except me. What are you 2 doing? Aurelius and I are trying to make a shadow light grenade. Oh? I walked to their table, my interest definitely piqued. Crafting a shadowlight grenade may be slightly advanced from what you have learned. How did you two come across it anyhow? I read ahead for the tome you gave us on darkness magic. It describes the shadowlight grenade as an item that has high shock value. Yes, the grenade is highly prized during war. It is especially popular with besieging armies launching an assault on a well-fortified citadel. Do you have a citadel in mind? I asked the question teasingly, but Aurelius appears to take it all in seriousness. I do, of a kind. The local gendarmerie in Zelflos tracked down a notorious bandit chieftain to his lair in one of the mountain ranges. Tomorrow I must help the gendarmes clear out the bandit hideout, and I want to do so with minimal loss of life. I see. The shadowlight grenade could be an invaluable aid in missions like that. Why didn't you ask for my help? The intelligence reached Fostrox only this evening. We couldn't find you, and there is not a moment to be lost. Alright, she's either always at the library or in her study, so that's bullshit. We need to strike before the bandit chieftain senses danger and shifts his hideout somewhere else. Unfortunately, our decision turned out to be a case of more haste, but less speed. My brother and I are having some trouble coordinating our spells. Our magics are not blending correctly, and the grenade we have is neither shadow nor light, but some sort of murky grey in between. The instructions in the tome had seemed so clear. This is frustrating. Quite the confession coming from Aurelius. But I understand his frustration. I encountered the same problem when I first tried to make the grenade. That is because light and darkness magics are natural counterparts. Just as darkness is the absence of light, so light is the absence of darkness. Attempting to blend the two merely diminishes the potency of both. That's a passage from the Tome of Darkness magic. I remember it because I couldn't understand what it means. I have a question, Lady Rosencruz. Ask away, Seren. If light and darkness magic are strongest in the absence of the other element, how can we create items that combine them? An excellent question. Light and darkness magic weaken each other when forced together. I see. Aurelius exclaimed, suddenly looking at somewhere far away. The shadowlight grenade makes use of the two elements without forcing them into one. I'm beginning to understand. For light to be at its brightest, my light magic has to be kept distinct from Aurelius's darkness magic, so that the distinctiveness between light and dark are sharpened, not blurred. Very good! Crafted properly, the shadowlight grenade not just retains the contrast between light and darkness, it heightens it. The princes are silent for a moment, assimilating this new insight in their own ways. Shall we give this one more try, Aurelius? This time we'll get it right. Of course, they did not get it right the first try, or the second try, or even the third try, but after the fourth try, the two princes are owners of a new shadowlight grenade. Impressive! I had taken much longer the first time I tried to make one of these. I'm sure we owe our success to our wonderful teacher. Seren smiles at me and I find myself smiling back. Aurelius, naturally, pays us not the slightest attention. He stashes the grenade into his pack and turns to us. You two can stay and chat if you wish. I need to wake early for the ride to Zelfos, whatever that said. Good night. Without another word, he makes his way out of the classroom. Seren laughs softly to himself. That is my dear brother's peculiar way of saying thank you. I'm glad I was able to help. You did far more than help. Because of you, we learned something new. He turns to me and makes an elegant gesture with his arm. Will you permit me to walk you back to your quarters tonight? If you'd be so kind. Seren accompanies me, filling the silence of the late night with soft chatter. While tiredness can be detected in his smile, he seems as pleased with tonight's work as I am. Alright, cool beans. Should I do another video or should I stop? That is the true question. I think I'll do another video, so I will see you in the next one. Bye!